Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David and this is my spirit guide, Ruud.
Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about a fun and effective commander deck you can build without breaking the bank. Now today's deck is going to be a removal deck which will destroy or exile everything in its path. As with all our decks, there's just one additional build rule, that is that all cards need to be under $1 in price with the exception of the commander. So let's take a look at the commander.
Let us have a look, and we have an awesome commander for you today. We have Teysa Orzhov Scion. Now to cast her it costs one colorless, a white and a black. So for 3 mana we got our commander on the table, and she's got 2 very cool abilities. First of all, she's a 2/3. Second of all, her first ability is sacrifice 3 white creatures, then you get to exile target creature from the game. This is the reason why we have her. It is a super powerful ability because if we have multiple small white creatures that we don't really need, we can exile 3 of those and then we can exile a target creature which is annoying us. The second ability is whenever another black creature you control is put into the graveyard from play, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield, which of course if you have 3 of those we can exile those, destroy those to exile a target creature of our choice. So the role of this commander is going to be mostly to exile the troublesome creatures, maybe enemy commanders, big fatties, and she can do this instant speed because it's one of her abilities, so we're going to be using that ability at the last moment when it is most relevant for us. And the second reason why we have her, the second role, is to turn black creatures, which die, into spirits of ours, of course. So Ruud, to make this work, what kind of cards do we need?
Well, first off we have 25 cards that produce tokens, mostly white tokens, sometimes black tokens because they will come back as a white token when the black token dies. Then we have 13 destruction cards, 9 exile cards, and we have 12 utility cards, and of course 40 lands.
Yeah. Let's have a look at how the turn progression goes. Ruud, what does turn 1 look like in this deck?
Well, turn 1 we won't do anything, mostly. Turn 2 we will produce some tokens. Turn 3 most likely commander, of course, she's 3 mana. Then turn 4 some additional tokens, maybe we will start exiling right away. And turn 5 we will use some destruction, maybe in the form of just destroying something or exiling stuff. And then turn 6 onward will be a utility. So this can be of course additional tokens, but also some stuff that helps us in other ways.
Yeah, so the most important thing that Teysa needs is loads and loads of preferably white tokens on the battlefield. So let's have a look at the tokens. We divided the tokens into 3 categories, either single use, so these are cards that we can use one time to get a bunch of tokens, repeatable, we can get tokens more frequently, and scalable, that means at the beginning of the game we get a few tokens and later on in the game we can get a lot of tokens. Let's start with the single use cards. The first card is Gather the Townfolk. For 2 mana we get a sorcery which puts down 2 1/1 white human creature tokens onto the battlefield. Now it also has Faithful Hour, which means that if you have 5 or less life you get to put 5 of those tokens down instead. Now we're hopefully not going to be getting into that ugly situation where we have so little life. So in essence on turn 2 we can put down Gather the Townfolk, we've got 2 1/1 white creature tokens. Turn 3 we have Teysa. So should the case be that somebody wants to destroy Teysa, we can sacrifice those 2 tokens and Teysa herself because she's white after all as well, and then we get to exile whatever creature is most threatening to us at that point in time, or simply something of the opponent who did this to us just to bother them back. It's kind of insurance.
Of course. Next card is Raise the Alarm. Pretty much the same. It doesn't have Faithful Hour of course, but it is instant speed and will put down 2 1/1 soldier creatures instead of humans.
Yeah.
Nice card.
Very much so. Then we have Lingering Souls. For 3 mana we get a sorcery which puts down 2 1/1 white creature tokens onto the battlefield. These are white spirits with flying. And the beauty of this card, and why it's actually such a card that's also played in Modern and in other formats, is that it has flashback for a colorless and a black, so for 2 mana, and then you get to cast it again from your graveyard afterwards, exiling this card. So in essence, for 5 mana, we get 4 1/1 white spirit tokens with flying.
Yeah. Chances are, if this is in your opening hand, maybe you don't cast Teysa turn 3, you don't have to of course. You have turn 4, you might have 4 flying spirits, which is pretty great already, I think.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Then we have Spectral Procession for either 3 white mana, or instead of a white mana you can pay 2 of any other color, so that could be either white or colorless, or black or colorless I mean. But in essence, for 3 mana, we get to put down 3 white spirit tokens with flying. Awesome, because in essence, that's all you need to be able to sacrifice those 3 guys with Teysa and exile a creature that your opponents control.
Yeah, for 3 mana, maybe 4, you get 3 1/1 flyers. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Then we have Captain's Call for 4 mana, of which 1 white. You get a sorcery which puts down 3 1/1 soldier creature tokens.
Yeah, another card that gives us all the tokens we need to be able to remove a creature of our opponents. Then we have a Battle Screech for 4 mana. It's another sorcery. As you notice, a lot of these are sorcery speed, so we're not going to be able to use them as instant speed removal. But still, this one puts down 2 white spirit. Not bird. Okay, now I'm messing it up all over. I'm going to start again. Actually, it's 2 white bird creature tokens. They're white, but they're not spirits. And the beauty of this card is that it has flashback with tap 3 untap white creatures you control. And if you have Teysa on the battlefield, you will have a white creature plus the 2 that Battle Screech just put down. You tap all 3, you get to cast it again for free, afterwards exiling the card. So in essence, for 4 mana, you're going to get 4 1/1 white bird tokens with flying. Very good deal.
Very good deal, of course. Then we have Benevolent Offering. It's an instant for 4 mana, of which 1 white. It's a little difficult to read. Choose an opponent. You and that player each put 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So you and 1 opponent of your choice gets them.
Preferably somebody who doesn't have a lot of benefit in having small flyers.
Then you can choose another opponent, which can be the same opponent, of course. And you gain 2 life for each creature you control, and that player gains 2 life for each creature he or she controls. So this will help you both just as good. So in a 2-player game, it's not really relevant to have this card, but it's multiplayer, of course, so it will help you quite a lot. And of course, you will be able to do so much more with the flying spirits than most other decks.
Yeah. On top of that, this card is actually instant speed, which means that if somebody does some kind of shenanigans, you can instant speed cast this, get those 3 tokens, sacrifice them with Teysa, and then exile whatever fatty might have been attacking you, and people would have never seen it coming. Sure, you're gaining some life, maybe you have tons of white spirits anyway, and then you'll gain much more life than your opponent who might have those 3 plus 1 fatty, for example. So I do believe it'll give you a bit more advantage, even in one-on-one play, but it definitely shows its work in multiplayer.
True. Then we have Sengir Autocrat. Do I say it correctly?
That is correct, an Autocrat.
For 4 mana, of which 1 black, you get a 2/2 creature, a human, and you get to put down 3 0/1 black surf creature tokens into play. And when Sengir Autocrat leaves play, you get to remove the token, so you don't want that.
No.
But when the tokens die, of course they will transform into a spirit.
Pretty sweet, right?
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, so in essence, for 4 mana, you're going to get 4 guys that you can chump block with, and they will become 4 1/1 white spirit tokens.
True that.
Then we have Geist Honored Monk for 5 mana. This is an awesome card. It's a human monk with vigilance, and its power and toughness is equal to the amount of creatures you control. Hopefully, since we're going to be making so many tokens, this guy is going to be, or this girl is going to be huge. On top of that, when she enters, she already comes with 2 spirit tokens onto the battlefield for you right off the bat. So if you're already putting down 3 guys, which potentially, worst case scenario, you could sacrifice to exile an opponent's creature.
That's true. Then we have Cloud Goat Ranger. For 5 mana, we get a 3/3 giant warrior, and when it enters, you get to put down 3 1/1 white Kitkin soldier creature tokens. It also has an additional ability. You can tap 3 untapped Kitkin, so you will most likely only have 3. Yeah. And this guy gets +2/+0 and gains flying. Pretty weird for a giant, but it gains flying.
Yeah.
Of course, it's in there because it puts down 4 white creatures. That's the main reason, but still, it could be nice.
I don't think it's that weird that it gets flying, because if you look at the back of the picture, you see there's a cloud goat there. That's basically a goat with wings, so that's what it's riding. What I don't understand is why would the Kitkin soldiers need to be tapped for them to get the goat? Or maybe he hired the soldiers to get the goat, and now he can fly. See, it makes perfect sense. These cards are thought out very well. Then we have Increasing Devotion for 5 mana. We get a sorcery that puts down 5 1/1 human creature tokens onto the battlefield. Very important. They're white, so once again, very nice for sacking. Otherwise, we can also, once this card is in the graveyard, we have Flashback for a 9 mana, which is pretty steep, but then we can do it again. So we get a little bit more value out of it.
Well, actually, then you will put down 10 of those tokens when you flashback it. So with one card, most likely in a commander game you might get to 9 mana. Could really happen.
Yeah.
So with one card you get to put down 15 tokens, which is insane, of course.
That's a lot of exiled creatures right there.
Then we have Conqueror's Pledge for 5 mana, which 3 white. We put down 6 1/1 white core creature tokens onto the battlefield. It also has Kicker 6, but then you will need 11 mana, so I don't think that's gonna happen. Well, but if you do that, you will put down 12. Well, of course, it's just 6 creature tokens for 5 mana.
Yeah, I've never cast it and get 12 out of it.
So you can remove 2 creatures right away when you cast this. So it's for 5 mana, exile 2 creatures.
And you're only using one card for that.
True.
Then we have an awesome card that is Captain of the Watch for 6 mana. We get a 3/3 human soldier. It has vigilance and also gives other soldier creatures you control +1/+1 and vigilance. And as we've seen already, there's a bunch of cards which give us soldier tokens. So they're 1/1s normally, but they'll be 2/2s with vigilance when Captain of the Watch is on the battlefield, which is awesome. On top of that, she doesn't come alone because she comes in with another 3 white soldiers that are also 1/1s. So that is already 9 power on the battlefield just with that one card. And potentially 3 dispensable soldiers which we can sack to Teysa.
Then we go to the repeatable token creation. First off, we have Spirit Bonds for 2 mana. We get an enchantment, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 white and you get an additional 1/1 white spirit creature token. Pretty nice. That's the main reason why it's here. What you could also do for 2 mana and sacrifice a spirit, which you might have just made with this card. And then the ability states that target non-spirit creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So some protection, maybe for Teysa, maybe for something else. Could happen, but the main reason is for the 1/1 flying spirits, of course.
Yeah, very nice. And one perfect time for that to triggers, for example, when you cast Skurrsdag High Priest for 2 mana, we get a 1/2. And this human cleric has Morbid, which means that if a creature died this turn, you get to tap the Skurrsdag High Priest, 2 more untapped creatures you control, and then you get a 5/5 black flying demon token onto the battlefield for you. And I mean, that is a great deal. A 5/5 black, which also when it dies and Teysa's on the battlefield, it will become a 1/1 white spirit. You get a lot of value, and most likely you'll have a lot of guys which are untapped spirits or soldiers. So if something dies, Skurrsdag High Priest won't have a problem activating.
Yeah, and also you can just tap to new creatures because, well, they have summoning sickness. This one taps them, so that's a cost you pay. So they can just tap. So pretty nice. Of course, it does have Morbid. We have a lot of stuff that exiles creatures. So maybe we have to wait till something dies. Most likely something will die because you can sacrifice your tokens, of course. So there are a lot of ways to make this happen. And well, a 5/5 black demon is just insane, of course.
Yeah, it's nothing to be trifled with. Then we have Curse of Shallow Graves for 3 mana. It's an aura curse. We don't see these very often. You're going to be enchanting an opponent, and then whenever anybody attacks that person, you get to that person will be able to put down a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So basically you just give it to whoever you think might be the biggest threat, and that's going to be motivation for everybody to be attacking that person. It's a little bit political, and on top of that, any zombie token you get by attacking that person, you can have it. It's nice. 2/2. Should it die, you get a 1/1 spirit. Good value.
Put the hate on someone. Then we have a Biomancer. For 3 mana it's a 2/2 human shaman, and at the beginning of each upkeep, so also your opponent's upkeeps, if you control no snakes, you get to put down a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch, which is pretty nasty, of course. It's a chump blocker that kills anything except something with double strike or first strike or indestructible, but it will kill almost anything, and it will replace itself with of course a spirit and then a new snake.
Yeah, so keep a Biomancer alive and she will do great things for you. Not unlike Theben Doomsayer for 3 mana, of which 2 have to be white. We get a 2/2 human cleric, which can tap to put down a 1/1 white human creature token onto the battlefield. Which is nice because you just keep tapping this guy. Every turn you keep on making little 1/1s that are white, and you'll be able to creating your replaceable fodder for Teysa to exile stuff. Also has Faithful Hour, which means as long as you have 5 or less life, a creature you control get +2/+2. Probably, by the time this is relevant, you will probably already be almost dead anyway, so it won't make much of a difference.
No. Then we have Twilight Drover. For 3 mana, it's a 1/1 spirit, and when a creature token leaves the battlefield, doesn't have to be under your control, just a creature token, you can put a +1/+1 counter on this guy, and for 3 mana you can remove a +1/+1 counter from this guy, and you can put down 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Now that is very, very good, of course. A lot of tokens will die during the game.
Yeah. And you'll be sacrificing them anyway.
Yeah, and then you will gain new ones for just some mana.
Yeah, they replace itself.
Nice.
So sweet. Yeah, especially nice if you should happen to have the spirit bonds on the battlefield. Somebody does a board wipe. You pay 2 mana. Make sure. Oh wait, you can't do that with this. No, because this was a spirit. But in either case, so you can't keep it alive during board wipes. That's too bad. But it will be doing loads and loads of work in the meantime, becoming huge and creating more spirits for you. Then we have Liliana's Reaver for 4 mana, of which 2 have to be black. We get a 4/3 with Death Touch. That's already such a good body for 4 mana.
Pretty
such
nice,
a powerful body. People don't want to block this because of the Death Touch. So whenever Liliana's Reaver deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, and you get to put down a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. I mean, that is value on top of value. You're dealing damage, you're making them discard cards, and on top of that, you get a black creature, which, again, when it dies, gives you a white one.
Pretty nice. Then we have Endrek Sar Master Breeder. For 5 mana, we get a human wizard, so it's a 2/2. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you get to put down X 1/1 black thrill creature tokens, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. So whenever you cast a creature spell, you get additional thralls, which is of course insane. Would have even been better if they were white, because then we can just sacrifice them. Especially because when you control 7 or more of the thralls, you have to sacrifice this guy, Endrek Sar Master Breeder again. So you don't want that, so you really want those thralls to die actually, and you get additional spirits.
Yeah, so basically what you do, short example, you put this Endrek Sar down, then you cast Liliana's Reaver, you've got your zombie, and because converted mana cost is 4, you get another 4/4 1/1 black thralls. You can use them to block, let them die, or you can just send them and attack people. And people think, oh, alright, so I have to take 4 damage, or I can just block them easily and let them die. You put them in a difficult choice because they don't want to take the damage, and they also don't want you to get your white spirits. So then we go to Archdemon of Unix, not Unix, not Linux either. Unix? Unix? I just keep on thinking Unix for some reason. This is an operating system demon. For 7 mana, of which 2 black, we get a 6/6 demon with flying and trample. That is already insane. That's going to be finishing games super quick. On top of that, at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a non-zombie creature. Then you get to put down a 2/2 black zombie creature token into play. Normally this is a pretty big downside because otherwise you'd lose all your creatures. However, in this case, you can just sacrifice one of your spirit tokens, you'll get a 2/2 zombie. Then once your zombie dies, you're going to get a spirit, and then you can keep on repeating the process. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't only have zombies, because then you have to sacrifice the Archdemon.
It would be even better if you can sacrifice black tokens, of course. For example, those from Endrek Sar.
Yeah, for example,
a zombie and a spirit.
Pretty sweet. Those are the repeatable ones. Then we can go to the scalable ones. What's the first one of the ones that scale?
Deploy to the front is the first one. For 7 mana, it's a sorcery. We get to put down X 1/1 white soldier. Soldiers again. Soldier creature tokens. And where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So the total number of all players. Can be quite a lot, of course. Maybe it's not that much, but mostly it will be a lot.
Yeah. Then we have Martial Coup for X and 2 white. We get this is sorcery, and you put down X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. But if X is 5 or more, you also get to destroy all other creatures. So at the beginning of the game, okay, you could pay 4, you get 2. That's not such a big deal. But later on in the game, if you're in trouble, everybody's got amazing board states. You know what? X is more than 5. And then you wipe the board, and you've got a couple of guys to start you out with.
Exactly. Then we have the big sister, not sister, it's another form of Teysa, Teysa Envoy of Ghosts. For 7 mana, it's a creature, human, the Divisor. It's a 4/4, it has vigilance and protection from creatures, which is pretty nasty of course. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you get to destroy that creature and you put down a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So when this white and black spirit dies, you get a white spirit back, which is insane of course. This is just really nasty. There is also some political stuff into this deck. They don't want to attack you because their creatures will get destroyed and you will get additional creatures.
Exactly. Okay, well those are the tokens. Let's have a look at the destruction cards. The destruction cards we split up into repetitive, flexible, sacrifice, and mass destruction cards. Very simply, Teysa likes to exile stuff, but she also likes to destroy stuff. So let's have a look at what the repetitive cards are that she brought along. First one is Royal Assassin for 1 colorless and 2 black. So for 3 mana we get a 1/1 guy that can tap to destroy target tapped creature. I cannot tell you how often people hate seeing Royal Assassin on the battlefield because it really stops people from attacking not only you but everybody else. Or of course you can tell people, no, you can go ahead and attack with that creature as long as you're attacking somebody else and I won't kill it. So you can use it as political leverage as well.
This is really nasty. Then we have Stronghold Assassin. For the same cost we get a 2/1 zombie assassin and we can tap it and sacrifice a creature. So it can sacrifice itself but also something else. And then we get to destroy target non-black creature. So
conditional.
It doesn't have to be tapped, but can be a non-black creature. Do keep in mind you can't surprise anyone with this of course because it has to tap itself, so when it comes in it can tap right away.
Yeah, that also counts for the Royal Assassin, and that also counts for the Intrepid Hero for 3 mana, of which 1 white, we get a 1/1. And this human soldier taps to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Also very conditional, but you know, big fannies, they gots to go.
Then we have High Priest of Penance for 2 mana, 1 white and 1 black. We get a human cleric, it's a 1/1. And when it is dealt damage, so mostly when it dies of course, you may destroy target non-land permanent. So anything you like except for a land.
Yeah, this is one of those flexible cards because it gives you a little bit more, it's not repeatable, but it does give you a little bit more flexibility of what you want to hit. You can sacrifice High Priest of Penance to Teysa's ability together with 2 other white creatures to exile something, but then it won't trigger because it wasn't dealt damage, it just died. So it really has to take damage. Another card that's very flexible is Mortify for 3 mana, colorless, a white and a black. You get an instant that states you can either destroy target creature or enchantment. It's pretty nice. Sometimes you might want that ability to destroy an enchantment.
Then we have the sacrifice-based destruction. The first one isn't really sacrifice. Magus of the Abyss for 4 mana, it's a 4/3. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, destroy target non-artifact creature that player controls of his or her choice. It can be regenerated. So they choose which creature has to be destroyed, so not sacrificed. Pretty weird.
You get to choose.
No.
At the beginning of each player's upkeep.
Of his or her choice.
Where does it say that? Oh, of his or her choice. Okay,
Yeah,
so they have to choose something. Yeah, you're right.
So it's
different
sort of sacrifice, but it gets destroyed. So if they only have an indestructible creature, it won't work anymore.
That's true, but if they have an indestructible creature and another creature, they have to pick the other
they
one.
can choose the indestructible, that's true.
Yeah, so it kind of works that they're going to be sacrificing a creature every turn.
Yeah,
basically. So that's why it's in there. And also it's 4 mana, and it is a 4/3. And then we have another card which works very similarly, but does use the word sacrifice. World Queller for 5 mana, we get a 4/4, and at the beginning of your upkeep, so now it's not their upkeep, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you may choose a card type. So you can say either a creature or enchantment or artifact, and then if you do, each player sacrifices a permanent of that type. So that means that people have to sacrifice, if you choose creature, a creature. And you sacrifice maybe one of your tokens, and everybody else has to sacrifice something more valuable. But if it's an enchantment or an artifact that you want gone, you can also choose that. Especially nice if you don't have any artifacts or enchantments.
True, pretty nice. Yeah. Of course you do have to do it yourself, but still very nice. Then we have Woebringer Demon for 5 mana, it's a 4/4 flyer. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, so that includes you, that player sacrifices a creature.
If a player can't sacrifice this guy, so that does mean that you have to make sure that everybody does have creatures to sacrifice, because otherwise it only works once, and then Woebringer Demon will have to kill itself.
Yeah. So if there are no creatures under one of your opponent's control, then you have to sacrifice the Woe Remedy.
Yeah. In the meantime, it's a 4/4 flyer, which is pretty sweet.
True.
Then we have Demon of Wailing Agonies for 5 mana. We get a 4/4 flyer. And this guy has Lieutenant, which states that as long as you control your commander, so as long as Teysa's on the battlefield, plus you have Demon of Wailing Agonies on the battlefield, Demon of Wailing Agonies gets +2/+2 and has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. So it becomes a 6/6 flyer, almost impossible to stop. Deals damage, they also have to sacrifice a creature, nasty.
Very nasty. Then we have Archfiend of Depravity.
Yeah, Depravity, yeah.
For 5 mana it's a 5/4 flyer. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player chooses up to 2 creatures he or she controls, then sacrifices the rest. Oh, that's insane, of course. Each player will only be left with 2 creatures except for you.
Yeah, in essence, these cards, these sacrifice cards, help you against anything that has hexproof or shroud, because you make sure that there's still another way that you can still get rid of creatures on top of that. Now we go on to the mass destruction cards. The first one is Purify for 5 mana. We get a sorcery that states destroy all artifacts and enchantments. We don't have any artifacts, we have barely any enchantments, so it's not too bad for us.
True. Then we have Kirtar's Wrath. For 6 mana, it's a sorcery, destroy all creatures and they can't be regenerated. And it also has Threshold, which means if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you get to, after this resolves, put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens but flying onto the battlefield.
A nice little bonus, we like having little spirits, right? So it's good.
Nice.
Then we have Necromantic Selection as the last one of our mass removal, mass destruction spells, and for 7 mana, of which 3 black, we get to Sorcery Speed, destroy all creatures, then return a creature card put into the graveyard from the battlefield this turn under your control. It is also a black zombie, which is not too relevant, and then we have to exile Necromantic Selection. So when the going gets tough, everybody's got a lot of big stuff, you're not doing too well, you know, you wipe the board and you take the best thing, basically. Pretty sweet. Those were the destruction cards. Let's have a look at the exile cards. We divided the exile cards into creature exile, non-land exile, and flexible exile. Now we're going to start with a card that's, once again, we like starting with cards that are not technically what they're supposed to be. The first one is Condemn. For 1 white mana, we have an instant speed spell. We get to put target attacking creature on the bottom of its owner's library. So as you can see, this is not really exile, but it's not putting the creature in the graveyard, it's putting it at the bottom of the library. Very hard to get back, especially for decks that do graveyard shenanigans. On top of that, its controller gains life equal to its toughness as well. We're in Commander, so a few extra points of life is not going to lose us the game.
No, true. Then we have Crypt Swap. For 3 mana, it's an instant. Well, all the tribal and shapeshifter stuff doesn't really matter about this card in this deck. And you get to remove target creature from the game, so exile, and its controller replaces it with a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token.
Yeah, good luck getting good value out of that. The next card is Unmake. For 3 mana, either white or black, we get an instant speed exile target creature. How much more to say about that?
Very simple, very strong. Then we have the exile cards, which exile a non-land card. The first one is Banishing Light. It's an enchantment. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this card leaves the battlefield. So if this card is destroyed, it will return to the battlefield,
yeah.
The opponent's card.
The next one is almost exactly the same. Oblivion Ring, also 3 mana. Also when this enchantment is the battlefield, we get to exile another target non-land permanent, and when this card leaves the battlefield, it returns back to the battlefield. The same as Banishing Light.
In this case, again, we will end with the utter end. It's the simplest version of what it does is exile target non-land permanent. Simple. Yeah. 1 black, 1 white, 2 colorless. Exile something.
And all awesome. Then we have the flexible cards, and this one is very flexible. We got Return to Dust for 4 mana. It's an instant speed spell, and we get to exile target artifact or enchantment. That's pretty flexible. On top of that, if you cast this during your main phase, so you don't take advantage of the instant speed, you can exile up to 1 target artifact or enchantment again. So basically, you get, you know, out of those 2 choices, you remove also 2 things. A lot of flexibility. Very nice, especially for example if your opponents are playing indestructible enchantments like the gods.
True that.
Yeah.
True that. Then we have Archon of Justice. For 5 mana, it's a 4/4 flying Archon. When it dies, you get to exile target permanent. Pretty simple.
Permanent, so it could even be land if you should be so douchey as to want to do that, although we don't recommend it. Lots of flexibility there. And we top off the flexibility curve with Merciless Eviction for 6 mana. We get a sorcery speed spell. We get to choose one, either exile all artifacts, or exile all creatures, or exile all enchantments, or exile all planeswalkers. Whatever you don't like, it's exiled, it's gone, and that is awesome. Those were the exile spells. Let's have a look at the utility spells. We've divided the utility cards into 2 classifications. The first one is synergy, so cards that work very well with the loads of tokens that we're going to be playing. And the second one is draw, because after all, we want to be drawing some cards, getting through all our spells. Let's have a look at the first synergy card, and that is Archetype of Courage. For 3 mana, we get a 2/2, and it states that creatures you control have first strike, and on top of that, creatures your opponents control lose first strike and can't gain first strike. Very nice. We have lots of very little guys. If people want to attack you with the fatty, you can block with all the small guys, and as they have first strike, you will destroy the fatty and your small guys won't get killed.
Very true. Then we have Archetype of Finality. For 6 mana, it's a 2/3 Gorgon. Creatures you control have dead touch, and creatures your opponents control can't have or gain dead touch. Combine this with the Archetype of Courage and you will have very, very powerful tokens which kill anything in their path.
I love it. Then we have Angelic Skirmisher. For 4 mana, we get a 4/4 Flying Angel, and it states that at the beginning of each combat, so yours but also your opponent's combat, you get to choose either all your creatures gain first strike, vigilance, or lifelink. That is super nice because, for example, in your turn you can say, okay, let my guys have vigilance, you attack, and then in somebody else's turn you can say, okay, let's have them have first strike if you think that's something fat. Otherwise, lifelink, so you can gain some life. It gives you lots of flexibility for all your little guys.
And on top that's the 4/4 flyer, of course.
Also not to be trifled with.
True. Then we have Mirror Entity. For 3 mana, it's a 1/1 shapeshifter, and you can pay X, and until end of turn, all your creatures will have base power and toughness X. So they don't get plussed, they don't get buffed, of course, but they will be changed into bigger creatures.
Yeah, so let's just say that if you have 5 mana, which is not a lot, then all your 1/1 tokens will be 5/5s. That is gonna add up real quick.
Yeah, but your Soul of Theros, your 6/6 Soul of Theros, which we will see in a minute, will also be 5/5 instead of 6/6. So it will change.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. But mostly it's just gonna be for your little guys.
True.
Then another card that works very well with all your small tokens is Jazal Goldmane. For 4 mana, we get a 4/4 first striker. And if you pay 5 mana, attacking creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So this is a plus, unlike the Mirror Entity. On top of that, as you're going to have so many little guys, you're going to pay 5 mana and all your guys are going to boost themselves equal to all your little tokens that are attacking, making them very dangerous. On top of that, you can do this instant speed, so you can attack and then you can choose whether you want to activate it or whether you want to save your mana for something else.
True. Then we have Soul of Theros, like I just said. For 6 mana, it's a 6/6 Vigilance Avatar. And for 6 mana, you can make creatures you control gain +2/+2 and first strike and lifelink until end of turn. Of course, again, you can do this instant speed. Very, very nice. It also has the ability to do this same thing for just once. You get to exile it from your graveyard for 6 mana when it has died. And then it does this ability one more time. Everything gets +2/+2 first strike and lifelink.
Very nice card. Those are the synergy cards. Now let's have a look at the cards that will draw us spells. The first one is Underworld Connections for 3 mana, 2 of which have to be black. We get an enchantment. We're going to enchant one of our lands. And this land has tap, pay 1 life, draw a card. Pretty good value to pay 1 mana basically. You're paying 1 life and you're drawing a card.
True that. Then we have Mentor of the Meek. For 3 mana, it's a human soldier, it's a 2/2, and whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters under your control, you can pay 1 mana and you get to draw a card. Since we will have a lot of tokens and tokens that replace themselves, this will happen a lot of times.
Yeah, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. The more mana, the better. Then we have Greed for 4 mana. It's an enchantment, and we pay 1 black mana. We also pay 2 life, and then we draw cards. A little bit more expensive than the Underworld Connections, but still a pretty good deal.
Still pretty nice. Then we have the Graveborn Muse. For 4 mana, we get a 3/3 zombie spirit. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of zombies you control. In most cases, I think this will be the only zombie you have, but still drawing a card for free each turn. Well, you do lose 1 life, but well, basically for free. is very nice.
Yeah, and should you get 1 or 2 extra zombies on top of that, well, that's only better.
Yeah.
You don't want to have tons and tons either, because then you'll kill yourself, most likely. Then we have a card that's very similar for 1 mana more, that is Bloodgift Demon for 5 mana. We get a 5/4 flyer, which also has at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life. However, what makes this guy so much better is that it has flying and it is a 5/4. Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. Flying. Then we have Promise of Power for 5 mana, of which 3 have to be black. It's a sorcery. You can choose one of 2 things. The first one is draw 5 cards and lose 5 life. And the other option is put an XX black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield, where X is the number of cards in your hand as this token enters. So, well, you can also entwine this. So for 4 mana, so it's 9 mana. On top of the 5 mana, so it's 9 mana in total. You get to do this both. So first draw 5 cards, and you will have at least a 5/5 demon. It will most likely be more if you had some additional cards in your hand.
Yeah, pretty sweet. Those are the draw cards, but naturally we can't cast any of this without the proper mana distribution, so let's have a look at the lands. We divided the lands into 12 plains, 15 swamps, and 13 non-basic lands. The first non-basic is Orzhov Guildgate, comes in tapped, but gives you either a white or a black mana.
Very simple. Then we have Coward Barons. It's basically the same, but when it enters it gives you an additional life, a whole life.
Wow, wonderful. Then we have Tainted Field. It comes in untapped, very like a normal land, gives you colorless mana, but should you have a swamp on the battlefield, then you could use it for either white or black. Good flexibility.
Very nice. Then we have Salt Flats. Also enters tapped. It can give us a colorless mana, but it could also give us a white or a black, but it will cost you 1 damage.
Correct. And we have Orzhov Basilica. It comes into the battlefield tapped. You also have to return a land back to your hand when you put it on the battlefield, but when you tap it, it gives you both white and a black mana.
Then we have Temple of the False God. It's a land which gives us 2 colorless mana, but it can only do this when you have 5 or more lands, so you need 4 other lands.
Yeah, then we have Crypt of Agadim. It also comes into the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to give you a black mana, or you can pay 2 mana, tap it, and then you get black mana equal to the amount of black creature cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, this will only, of course, be beneficial if you have 4 or more black creatures in your graveyard, so most likely won't do a lot, but it could. So nice.
Have it in there.
Then we have Bojuka Bog. Enters tapped, but when it enters, you get to exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Could be really relevant against graveyard decks.
Yeah.
And it gives you only black mana.
Yeah. Then we have Arcane Lighthouse. It gives you a colorless mana when it taps. And on top of that, you can pay a mana, tap it, and then until the end of turn, creatures your opponents control lose Hexproof and Shroud and can't have Hexproof or Shroud. Needless to say, Teysa loves to see this card on the battlefield because that means that any Hexproof or Shroud creatures can just be deactivated and can be exiled with her ability.
It really does some really nice work, this land. Especially in our commander games, we have some commanders which have hexproof, and they will be able to, Teysa will be able to remove those commanders.
Yeah.
Very nice. Then we have Vivid Meadow and Vivid Marsh. They both come in tapped, and they give you a black or a white mana. And they also both have the ability, they come in with 2 charge counters, so you can remove a charge counter to give you a mana of the other color.
Yeah, you do have to tap it, so if it comes in, it won't be able to give you any mana, and then every subsequent turn you can either choose to get a black mana from the Vivid Marsh or a white one from the Vivid Meadow, or any color, which would be obviously the color, the other color. Then we have the last cards, which are Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, which when they come into the battlefield, we can tap them and sacrifice them, and then search a land for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Those are the lands. Let's have a look at the conclusion. In conclusion, this deck is a lot of fun. I really love to play with this deck. Teysa is so powerful. The fact that she can exile any creature on the battlefield at any given point in time, instant speed, all the while growing her army, just is a lot of fun. I like playing with tokens. I really like the Reach the Redeem deck that we have on this channel as well. Teysa does not play like that at all, but it does have the same effect of having loads and loads of small creatures. On top of that, being able to remove things at a moment's notice is a great threat. It makes you feel kind of safe.
Yeah, it does. You are always the person which threatens everybody that they can remove anything they like. So you're really a big threat. People don't want you against them. So this is really nice. So you can keep on growing a little bit because you don't have to remove everything you see, of course, only the things that really threaten you. And then all of a sudden you also have some synergy cards which pumps your tokens, and they are a threat in the sense that you can kill somebody too instead of just their creatures.
Yeah.
So this is a really nice deck. It plays really different than Reason Redeemed, but of course it has some things that look a little bit like it, but I don't think we can say it's the same.
It also has white tokens, and that is the only similarity, because the way that Teysa uses her tokens is such a black way, really. Just sacrifices them to reach her own end. And on top of that, there's a lot of card draw in there, so you're getting your good stuff, and you've got your destruction, you got your mass destruction should stuff really get out of hand. Teysa's got an answer for virtually anything, and on top of that, any of your black creatures also replace themselves and become white creatures, so you have a very large staying power within the game.
It doesn't gain you as much tokens as Reese does, because it's really a destruction deck. It can just destroy or exile anything it sees. So that's really different than Reese, of course.
But I really like playing with Teysa. If you want to feel like you're in control, then play with Teysa.
Playing with Teysa?
I do. She's awesome. On top of that, it's a pretty affordable deck, right?
Yeah, it's just over $36. We did the calculations on magiccards.info and used all the medium prices of a lot of sites, so you can really buy this deck for below $40. That's including the commander and including all lands.
Yeah, not too
really
shabby.
cheap.
So now we're going to ask you guys to subscribe and also join us on Facebook and on Twitter. Leave us comments or questions down below, or get into contact with us that way, because we really like to hear what you guys think. And on top of that, let us know what you think of our question of the day, which is, Ruud.
Yeah, it's really simple. Would you like us to do modern budget deck decks in addition to the commander ones on our channel? You can leave the comments below.
Yeah, we don't have to. They're a lot of work. So just, if you don't want to see them, don't just say yes because you want us to put more effort into videos and become slaves to your will. Just, if you really want them, we will do them. But just let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
And I'm Ruud.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.